Dear student, today we are going to discuss about the type of nephron, JGA apparatus and the mechanism of urine formation. Let's learn about the first one, type of nephron. Look at this. It's a cortex part of the kidney. It's a medulla part of the kidney. The nephron present in an cortex region, that's a cortical nephron, while the nephron which present in an junction or at a medulla region, that is a juxta medullary nephron. The first one is a cortical nephron. They lie at a cortex region, while their loop of Henle is a short one and just extend to the upper part of the medulla. So their main function is to compose the plasma volume. And here is a vasa recta is a absent. Their total number is about 80 to 85%. While the second one, that's a juxtamedullary nephron. They lie at a junction of the cortex and the medulla. They having a long loop of Henle which can embedded inside the medulla. Now they are about a 50 to 20%, means the cortical nephron their number is a large, while only few are the juxtamedullary nephron is there. Now their function, the medullary nephron their main function is to control the plasma volume when the water supply is a very small amount. So again here vasa recta is also present. So according to their location and their function, they are of two type. One is a cortical nephron and another one is a juxtamedullary nephron. Second point is blood supply to kidney. We know about that renal artery. Renal artery supply the blood to kidney. Now, this renal artery divide and redivide to form a branching structure, that's a renal arteriole. This renal arteriole it again to form a network-like structure, and this renal arteriole which entered in an Bowman's capsule is called afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole which enter the Bowman's capsule. Now they afferent arteriole they can make a capillary network of globular structure, that's a glomerular capillary. This glomerular capillary they join again and to form efferent arteriole which leaves the Bowman's capsule. After that, the smaller one, efferent arteriole, they redivide to form a capillary network-like structure around the PCT, DCT, and the loop of Henle. So this capillary network is a peritubular capillary network. After that, this peritubular capillary network is joined again to form renal venule, and the renal venule is again rejoined together to form a renal vein. So this renal vein is leaves the kidney from the hilus region. So all these things related with the blood supply to the kidney. So let's study about the next one figure. It's a peritubular capillary network of structure. Here is a renal artery which enter the kidney. Then it reaches to each and every part of the kidney, that's a cortex region as well as a medulla region. So in a cortical nephron, look at this. The tributary of the artery, renal artery, tributary of renal artery म्हणजे उपशाखा, renal arteryची उपशाखा which enters in an Bowman's capsule, that's afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole enter the Bowman's capsule. While this divide and redivide to form a globular network of capillary inside the Bowman's capsule. That's a glomerulus. After that, they rejoin again, and after the rejoining, they leave the Bowman's capsule, and that is a efferent arteriole. This efferent arteriole leaves the Bowman's capsule. Now they can be form a capillary network around the PCT, then the DCT and the loop of Henle. In an cortical nephron, they can form a peritubular capillary network because there is a no vasa recta. Like that one, again in an juxtamedullary nephron, they having a peritubular capillary network, that's a vasa recta in an juxtamedullary nephron. So they entered, they can surrounded toward the PCT, DCT and the loop of Henle. Now this efferent arteriole to form a venules, to form a renal venules because they rejoin again to form a renal velule. परत एकदा त्या rejoin होतात आणि त्याच्यापासून renal venule तयार होते. Now this renal venule join to the renal vein, and renal vein which leaves the kidney from the hilus region. We know about that the main function of the nephron. The nephron helps to eliminate the nitrogenous waste material, means exchanging of the nitrogenous waste material, as well as a osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means maintaining the water and salt balance in a blood plasma. Next one point is juxtaglomerular apparatus. Look at this. Afferent arteriole which enters the Bowman's capsule, while the efferent arteriole which leaves the Bowman's capsule. This afferent arteriole, the wall of that arteriole is made up of smooth muscle cell. They are modified cells. They having a granular sarcoplasm. So that's why these cells are called as a juxtaglomerular cell, because of having a special or the modified granular sarcoplasm. Now the DCT. Look at this. The DCT which lie in contact with the afferent arteriole and having a compactly or densely packed cells, that's a macula densa cells. Look at this. There is a no space between that cells. So these cells are compactly arranged in that region than the other region. So this cells is a macula densa cells. The macula densa cells along with the juxtaglomerular cells. These are the juxtaglomerular cells. So together form a complex structure, that's a juxtaglomerular apparatus. That's a JGA apparatus or the juxtaglomerular apparatus. Their main function of that JGA or the juxtaglomerular apparatus is to regulate the blood pressure, because these cells secrete a substance, that's a renin, which helps in regulation of the blood pressure. Now the next one point is the urine formation. This picture gives us information about the process of urine formation. The process of urine formation, there is also called as uropoiesis. Uropoiesis, that's a formation of urine. We know about that. Poiesis, that's a formation. Uro, that's a urine. So there is a biological term, that's a uropoiesis, means formation of urine. The mechanism of urine, it consists of the three steps. One is a glomerular filtration, that is also called as a ultrafiltration. Second one step is a tubular reabsorption, and the third one step is a tubular secretion. So these are the three steps involved into the urine formation. The glomerular filtration. The movement of substance from the blood within the glomerulus into the capsular space. Look at this. The substance or the blood which can enter in an glomerulus, and there is a filtration occur under a high pressure. So whatever the filtrate is there, it entered in an capsular space or the urinary space. Now again they are entered into the next one step, that's a tubular reabsorption. The tubular reabsorption, that is the movement of substance from the tubular fluid back into the blood. So whatever the substance present in a tubular fluid, those are again essential, means it consists of the glucose, then plasma, some kinds of sodium, potassium, chloride ion is there. Those are essential substance. Again they are entered into the blood. So this step is a tubular reabsorption, means the substance which is again entered into the blood, that's a tubular reabsorption, again absorb. Now the third one step, there is a tubular secretion. The movement of substance, the blood into the tubular fluid, means that blood vessels having that substance, and again they are not a useful one, they having a waste substance one. So that's why they entered inside that tubule. Look at this, they entered inside the tubule from the blood, from the blood. So that's why this third step is a tubular secretion. So let's learn briefly the first one point, that's a ultrafiltration or glomerular filtration. Ultrafiltration is a passive process. Now this ultrafiltration occurs in an Malpighian body. Malpighian body means Bowman's capsule along with glomerulus. Look at here. Afferent arteriole, it is a greater in diameter than the efferent arteriole. So there is a difference in a diameter. Again, the capillary network, they are also having a smaller diameter. So due to the difference in a diameter of afferent arteriole and the efferent arteriole, the blood is filtered under a high pressure, so called ultrafiltration. So during in a high pressure, the filtrate is entered in a capsular space. This filtrate is called a glomerular filtrate, which entered in a capsular space under a high pressure. Now they are, this one layer is a parietal layer and it is a semi-permeable membrane, while only this much part is a function as a ultrafiltration, because of the semi-permeable membrane as well as the podocytes are the filtration slits are present, while the parietal wall they not take part in an ultrafiltration because of only there is a no presence of the filtration slits. So only the visceral part or the visceral wall take part in an ultrafiltration. Now this filtrate is a glomerular filtrate. This glomerular filtrate, it contains more amount of water and accept blood cells, protein as well as a pigment. So they are under a high pressure. Glomerular hydrostatic pressure is about 55 mmHg. Now another one part is the, look at this value, glomerular hydrostatic pressure, that is GHP, it is about 55 mmHg. GHP is opposes by the osmotic pressure of blood, which normally having a 30 mmHg, and the capsular pressure, which is about a 15 mmHg. Look at this value. EFP, effective filtration pressure, or NFP, Net filtration pressure means a total pressure of the ultrafiltration or the glomerular filtration. Now how it calculate one? It calculated with the help of GHP, that is a glomerular hydrostatic pressure, means a pressure act on an glomerulus. It is a 55 mmHg. It opposes, हे अपोजेस करतं, कोणाला करतं? That's a osmotic pressure of blood. It also called as BCOP. BCOP means blood colloidal osmotic pressure. It's about a 30 mmHg. While the filtrate hydrostatic pressure means a capsular hydrostatic pressure is a pressure that which the filtrate enters into the Bowman's capsule. This is about a 15 mmHg. Now the EFP or the net filtration pressure is 55 minus 45. That's total EFP, means total pressure of ultrafiltration is about a 10 mmHg. Now the next one is, due to the high pressure, that substance create a glomerular filtrate rate is about 125 ml per minute or the 180 liter per day. So it is a GFR. GFR is a 125 ml per minute or 180 liter per day. So due to that one, the 600 ml of blood is passes through the glomerular condition or through the each kidney. So in an glomerular filtrate, it contains substances like urea, then the glucose, inorganic salts, some kinds of protein. So all these substances are present inside that. It makes the primary urine alkaline in nature. So there is a filtrate, that's a glomerular filtrate, which is in an under pressure. So this semi-permeable membrane filtrate is entered into the urinary space. From that urinary space, it entered into the proximal convoluted tubule. So the second step is selective reabsorption or the tubular reabsorption. This absorption is occur in an PCT, that is a proximal convoluted tubule. This proximal convoluted tubule, it is lined by single layer of columnar epithelial cells. These columnar cells having a microvilli or the brush border, means it can increase the more absorption area. So these kinds of PCT, it absorb the substance, that's a high threshold substance or the low threshold substance with the actively as well as a passively in manner. Actively they needs the energy, while passively they does not need the energy. So only due to the diffusion they can enters into the blood capillary. That PCT, it can absorb 99% of glomerular filtrate. The glomerular filtrate is 99% is absorbed in an PCT as well as in an DCT. Look at here. The substance which is a high threshold substances like a glucose, amino acid, calcium, Na+, Cl-, those are the actively absorbed against the concentration gradient. So that's why they need the energy. Means they can flow from the lower concentration to the higher concentration. Only that's why they need the energy. So 99% is absorbed here. Now the low threshold substances like a water, then sulfates and the nitrates, they can be absorbed due to the concentration gradient, means they can move from higher concentration to lower concentration with the help of simple diffusion method. So this is about the selective reabsorption or the tubular reabsorption. Now the third one is the Third one step is the tubular secretion or the augmentation. This is a DCT, distal convoluted tubule. It is surrounded by the peritubular capillary network. So inside the DCT and the CT, there is a actively absorb the waste material, that is a creatinine, K plus ion as well as a H plus ion, and they are concentrate the urine, means they can changes the alkaline to the acidic urine inside the lumen of the DCT and the CT, that's a collecting tubule. Now into that collecting tubule there is a augmentation. Augmentation means increase or to change the pH from alkaline to the acidic in nature. Now there is a actively absorption of the H plus ion inside the CT, that's a collecting tubule, which helps in an homeostatic mechanism to maintain the internal environment. Now, in a tubular secretion, there is a augmentation, that's a changes in pH from acidic, means the first one is a alkaline in nature, which is found in an PCT. Now it changes into the acidic in nature, means their pH is less than the 7 only due to the actively secretion of the H plus ion. And this tubular secretion or the mode of excretion only found in an marine bony fishes as well as in an desert amphibian. So in this way we completed the urine formation or the mechanism of urine formation. It consists of three steps: ultrafiltration, second one is a tubular or the selective reabsorption, and third one is a tubular secretion, that is a augmentation.